All right, what's going on, guys? Sal here. Today we're going to be looking at that Thursday night football, that showdown slate. We have the Oakland Raiders versus San Francisco 49ers. Potentially a sneaky, decent, good offensive game. Definitely better than what we got last night on Monday Night Football. I never put out the Monday Night Football video. I'm going to try and do that with these showdown slates. I got the Sunday night one out. Usually put the Thursday night one out every single week since I've been doing this for a few weeks now. And then I'm going to try and get that Monday night one out for you guys as well. I did hit on the Monday night one. I put 5 lineups in that $10 tournament, the $250,000 to first place. Here's the thing with those tournaments, right? It's a low-scoring game. Whenever that happens, and there's a possibility, I didn't like New England going into Buffalo. I liked them winning the game. I thought the spread was a lot. It ended up being a covered spread because of the pick six. But I don't like teams going into Buffalo or just cold environments on Monday Night Football where a team's hungry. Buffalo's hungry. They haven't been on Monday Night Football in a while. That's a tough place to play. Maybe one of the top 3 most toughest places. Most toughest, I don't know if that's something. But toughest places to play probably in the NFL. Brady's had his troubles in Buffalo. We know Buffalo's defense is a lot better than people expected this year. McDermott definitely has that defense playing well. So I saw a low-scoring affair coming out of that one, but I didn't want to play a ton of Bills players, right? If it's going to be low-scoring, kickers are going to be in play, defenses are going to be in play, and if anything, you're going to take the better team's offense in that situation, especially when the Bills have a historically bad offense this year, right? I mean, you have Derek Anderson, he was playing golf 2 weeks ago, commentating on golf tournaments. He was literally on TV commentating about golf, and then he's in the NFL 2 weeks later. Decent performance from him, especially for being 2 weeks out playing the Patriots on a big stage like that. But he's still Derek Anderson, right? So definitely no shares of him. I had the winning lineup. The James White and captain spot is somewhere I wanted to go immediately, especially when I saw they only had 2 running backs on the roster. I'm not going to dive too deep into this lineup construction right now, but they only had 2 running backs on the roster. I had Barner in captain spot on another spot. Interesting to only see him getting 2 carries. A lot of weird plays in that one with Cordell lining up at the backfield. The Bills running wild card, flea flickers, wildcat, all these different things. So it was easy for me to put Gostkowski in there and the Patriots defense and start there with James White or Edelman. 2 different types of lineups I submitted in the captain spot. Like I said, I didn't think Brady was going to have a ton of success passing ball. He had a lot of yardage, but still it ended up not being a lot of passing touchdowns, if none, I believe. The only touchdown was the rushing one. But having Brady in there as well, and then throwing it back, really all you could afford then was either Bills D, Zay Jones, I think Andre Holmes, and Zay Jones is just the guy running the most routes out there. He's been running 90% of the routes. You only got to do that. Benjamin's only in the 70s on running routes. So I thought Zay Jones was the play even if you could afford Benjamin. So I like that. And here's the thing with those lineups. It's like, okay, you're going to split between 1,000 people or however many people win. I think 480 people won last night. That's pretty good if you're only putting a $50 investment in and you're making $1,300, whatever it breaks down to. They add prizes 1 through 500 up, basically, and split it between however many people tied for that best lineup. That's a pretty good investment. Sure, you're not going to take home the $250K, but in a low-scoring game, you're basically never going to do that. There's just not a lot of variance then for where the points are going. It was like literally every single play, it had to be to Edelman, James White, Zay Jones, or Kelvin Benjamin for there to be any different point swing other than defensive and kicking points. So it was very low scoring. 120 points won the whole thing, 123. But let's get into this Thursday night slate, right? I got into that a little bit. I just wanted to say right now, thank you guys again. We moved 25% literally in like 15 hours from the previous video. These first look videos for the week, it seems like a lot of people like. That's something that's being searched a lot of. I want to know your guys' feedback. Leave it in the comments right now. What are some other videos that you guys like to see? Maybe other people are doing that I could do, or just ideas that you think would benefit you. I know I do some value videos. I'm going to try and get those out more consistently on Thursdays. Been messing around with breakdowns of the slates, which was definitely a long video, so I know that it kind of pushes some people off. But I think there's a lot of good info in there. But what else is there? I mean, the first look lineups, these showdown slates, they're very successful. I put out 4 to 5 videos a week, but I'm looking for that other video that a lot of people want to see, maybe later in the week, whatever it might be. Leave that in the comments, just any ideas you have or any feedback you have for me up to this point. If you could smash that like button, we continue to get a lot of likes on these videos based on our subscriber count. Like I said, subscriber count went up 25%. So all you guys who are here, I think like 50 more people, thank you for subscribing. If you're seeing this video, if you've been watching for the whole season and for some reason haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. If you're new here and you can subscribe, I'd appreciate that. But I understand if you want to wait till the end of the video to actually see if anything I'm saying is valuable or interesting. But my name's Sal by way of introduction. If I probably should have said that if you're new here. So welcome to the channel. Sally V's that nickname there. I'm going to change that to my full name, Sal Vetri. Easier to find me on social medias that way if you can find me on YouTube. But let's look into this, right? So we have this Thursday night. It's a $200,000 to first place. Last night they had like a special Halloween edition for $250,000. A little bit of a bigger prize pool, especially if you hit. You probably got, I don't know, 80, 100 more dollars since so many people won it. But we have Oakland and San Fran. And I saw there's a lot of people who weren't practicing on Monday. When you play on Thursday night, you're going to be practicing on Monday if you're that home team, and you're going to be traveling. Maybe Oakland travels on Tuesday, but I don't know how that actually went. But I saw we had the running backs for San Francisco, and we had C.J. Beathard not practicing the first day at least, or very limited in practice. I believe they weren't practicing at all, actually. We had Matt Breida, who was limited. Okay, he was limited on the injury report Monday, but I saw reports that said limited as in like he was walkthrough, basically. Like he didn't even participate in any tackles, no drills like that. C.J. Beathard, he was a non-participant Monday. And I don't really know what his issue is. I know that he went down and he kind of held his wrist for a little bit, but he did play through it, so I'm not sure what his issue was there. We were all on him week 7, maybe not we all. I was on him in week 7 in a good amount of tournament lineups. I actually played him in cash. Definitely didn't kill me, but him getting 9.1 points definitely doesn't help you, right? A lot of people saw what he did in his first 2 weeks, and I still think C.J. Beathard is a solid quarterback. With Kyle Shanahan, he can make anything out of a quarterback whisperer. But C.J. Beathard, oh, Halloween up there. Happy Halloween, early Halloween if I don't put anything out tomorrow, everybody. Just had a Halloween pop-up. Not sure if that'll be in the post after I edit these videos. But yeah, basically I think Beathard, he has that rushing upside for you, right? It hasn't been used so much this year. I'm surprised Kyle Shanahan hasn't thrown that in there, but he definitely has a rushing upside, and that allows him to kind of get out of the pocket a little bit, throw on the run, create extra plays when they're not there. Definitely a guy for our captain potential. So captain 1.5x on DraftKings. It also means the captain salary is 1.5x, as a lot of you probably know. So a good strategy, find somebody cheap so you can fit in all the other guys. And if that guy who's in the captain spot scores a tutty, tutties are worth 9 points. And actually, they're worth 10.5 points with PPR. And that's if they get 1 yard, they're worth like 10.2 points, right? For a touchdown if it's a reception. So if you can get somebody in there who does that, that's pretty good if that's all they're doing for you, and you can fit everybody else in there. Now, you want somebody who's going to be the highest projected player in cash game lineups into your spot. So I haven't looked at the projections, honestly. I usually use either Roto Grinders or Fantasy Labs. Both are great websites. I don't have like any affiliate link, but I could post those website links down in the description below. There's also some other things you guys can check out in there, my social medias, things like that, what I use to make these videos. If you're into videos or you want to make your own videos like this, you can check that stuff out. But I think we have some potential here for good upside. And what I like about these games with higher totals, basically, or closer spreads, so you know it's going to be a little more competitive. Both quarterbacks throwing the ball more, probably both running backs getting their run, or if it's a committee, multiple running backs getting their run. There's more variance. There's more places for the points to go. It's not just Tom Brady's going to have the points, the kicker's going to have the points, and maybe some of his receivers, and obviously James White being basically the only running back on New England's roster having the points last night. So you can probably pinpoint like 7 people tops to have points, 3 people maybe only to be in the captain spot. Whereas this game, you could probably pinpoint 12 plus people to have points. When you consider both defenses are probably in play, when last night it was just the Patriots. You can consider both kickers are probably in play, when last night most likely just the Patriots. I'm not sure how many people were confident playing Stephen Hauschka last night, if that's how you say his name. So I like this. There's more variance, which means you could possibly take home that $200,000 lineup, since there's a lot of different plays and lineup builds you can go with, since a lot of people have the ability to either get in the end zone or just see 10 touches upside in the game, even 5 touches, and 2 of those are touchdowns like Aldrick Robinson weeks back. So I like the upside there with these types of games where both offenses are definitely capable and both defenses aren't that great, which enhances both offenses when you have a better matchup. So let's see, we have the QBs priced up the most. That's interesting. We haven't really seen the QBs, both of them being the 1 and 2 spots. I don't know if we've seen that yet. We might actually see that Sunday night with Brady and Rodgers, but Devontae Adams might have something to say about that. I'm going to do a Sunday night video after this, so if you do see me wearing the same thing, that's why. My roommate goes to like the gym and stuff, or classes or whatever. I'm in college at Penn State, so I try and take advantage when he's gone to do these videos, so he can definitely stay in the room. I don't want him to be like, get out of the room, I gotta shoot a video. So we kind of work around that, so I'm going to do both of them today. So that's why I'm wearing the same outfit. A little dap it up today, you know what I'm saying? Had a little bit of a lunch. But yeah, so both quarterbacks, yeah. So Derek Carr definitely was a play this week that was definitely sneaky. I talked about that in that breakdown video. I like going Derek Carr's stack. I said Martavis Bryant. Obviously, he looked like the guy. He only ran 7 snaps. He only played on 7 snaps. They put Brandon LaFell in, which is ridiculous when Martavis Bryant was running the second and third most snaps, depending on the week with Jordy when Amari Cooper was out there. He was getting his run, right? And then they ended up putting him on only 7 snaps, less than Seth Roberts, less than Brandon LaFell. So very interesting. If you played him in cash, I actually stayed off him. But yeah, Carr's been hit or miss this year, right? He's been hit against bad defenses. Seattle's got a decent defense. The Chargers, definitely not what they are with Bosa, but it's still a good secondary. Cleveland's decent, but we've seen them be exposed, especially on the road. So it's hit or miss with Derek Carr, but he does have a floor around that 10 to 15 range with the upside of 30 points, as we've seen. Definitely probably going to be one of the most popular captain spots. If we look at these normal prices, they're down, right? We've been seeing people in the $12,000 range. And if there's not somebody in the $12,000 range, there's multiple people at $10,000 or high $9,000s. Here we only have one person in 5 figures, Derek Carr. CJ Beathard, we have to see what he's doing injury-wise. Let's see what backup QB looks like in San Francisco. Tom Savage and Mullins. I don't even know who Nick Mullins is, to be honest with you. He would remain the backup for Sunday's game against the Rams. Okay, that's a little while ago we're looking. And you have Tom Savage on this roster. We've seen him play in Houston a couple times. Nothing spectacular out of Tom Savage. These guys are cheaper, though, and they're going to have the opportunity. So if for some reason something goes wrong with Beathard, I don't foresee that happening. Maybe that's a play there, a punt play. Even if it's at captain spot, if he throws a touchdown or two, maybe you differentiate your lineup. But I feel like if Beathard's out, a lot of people are going to try and differentiate their lineup by doing that. You have the tight ends then, so QBs and then tight ends. That's very interesting. Jared Cook's been phenomenal this year, and by phenomenal, I mean he's had a couple phenomenal games. A decent game last week, but he still has low target share, right? This 13-12 targets, that's when he had his best game. So if he gets the volume, he's going to do well. That's what he's shown us here. 13-12, 5 this past week, turned it into a touchdown. But he's just not getting the volume. Now maybe that changes with Amari out of the lineup, and you want to rely more on Jared Cook, I'd imagine, than Brandon LaFell and Martavis Bryant, who's a one-trick pony. But we could see San Francisco's been susceptible against the tight end this year. Definitely a good matchup for him. But on the other side of the ball, George Kittle has just as good of a matchup against Oakland's defense, right? He's the guy who's getting the most target. He's getting the most run out there. Marquise Goodwin probably has the best upside, but George Kittle is the guy who went to college with C.J. Beathard. If Beathard's starting, I like George Kittle. Definitely a viable captain spot. Might be my favorite captain's position for a guy who can go over 100 yards, definitely get in the end zone. Captain spot is people that I want to see, position players going over 100 yards, so you get the bonus. You're getting a 4.5 bonus. That's a huge difference, or whatever, a 3.5 bonus it ends up being with the math for the 1.5x. That's a huge difference, and if somebody doesn't have that in their captain spot on these tight slates. And I also like people who can get 2 touchdowns in there, whether it be a quarterback, whether it be a position player. I think Kittle is a guy who can get 2 touchdowns. There's not a lot of people on this schedule or on this slate that are upside of 2 touchdowns. Maybe when we go down here, we could see Jordy Nelson doing that. Marquise Goodwin is definitely a guy who can get 2 touchdowns. He's done it this year, but I think he's more so one of that deep shot guys, and then he gets in the end zone. The Packers let him go on one play, and that's why he got in for the second touchdown. They let him go on both plays, but the second one was just a complete busting coverage. Nobody on the left side of the field at all when he scored his second touchdown that game. But Goodwin's definitely, obviously, always a tournament play. He's a cash play as well, since he's getting the run out there. What do you have, 4 targets this past week? But this is the thing. His receptions are low. His receptions basically have to be deep touchdowns for him to be valuable. Even if his receptions are touchdowns and they're only 10 yards, he's getting like 3 receptions a game. So he definitely has to be very efficient on those, which is what he's been doing so far. But I think the regression monster might be coming back here because he's had 4 touchdowns, and if we add this up, 7, 9, 10. 4 touchdowns on 10 receptions in the past 4 weeks. That means 40% of his catches are going for touchdowns. That's just not how it stays, right? I think the league average is probably somewhere in the best receivers, it's probably closer to like 9 to 10% if you're getting 100 receptions, catching 10 touchdowns, right? So that's obviously the regression monsters coming from him. He's a deep threat, so that makes sense that when he catches balls, they're deep, and most likely if they're deep balls, they're going to be going for touchdowns. But I think Marquise Goodwin, from a cash perspective, if you're playing cash, I really never play cash on these slates. It's just played for fun as a tournament, throw one to 5 tournaments in, depending on how I feel about the slate, and try and just turn that into $1,000 or something like that. Or if somehow you have a good lineup, turn it into $250K and retire. No, not retire. But this shit's fun. I'm not going to retire. I'm still in college and I'm saying retire. I wish I could retire right now. But yeah, Matt Breida, you got to keep your eye on. You got to keep your eye on these guys who are injured, of course. Let's try and build a lineup quick now that we're about like 15 minutes into this video and I haven't said anything about lineup construction. But just looking down in the value range, I always like to do that. Bolden gets some targets. Hasn't gotten some targets in a while. I played him in that Green Bay game and he got nothing for me. Nothing down here. Jimmy G on IR. RIP Jimmy G. Sad day. Marshawn Lynch on IR. He's having his best year in like 3 or 4 years, so sad day for him. He's been looking great. Selleck at tight end. He gets some run, but nothing I want to play. Nothing at all that I want to play. Actually, I didn't know he got that list. This is interesting. At 1,600, Kyle's Juszczyk, I think it's called. Juszczyk. He's definitely a guy who's getting run out there in the passing game as well. I like him, especially since he didn't do much in the past like 2 weeks. A lot of people might come off of him. I like him not in a captain spot. I don't think he's a guy who can score me 2 touchdowns. But I like him as a guy who can get me 4 receptions in a game for 20 to 25 yards and maybe he gets you 8 points, and if he falls in the end zone, he's huge value at 1,600. I like playing a guy like that, differentiate your lineup. We saw Dante Pettis come back last week. He only had 1 snap. I think he played very low, or only 1 target. I think he played very low snaps in that game, actually. It doesn't end up saying it anywhere. But I remember looking at the snap count for this game. Very low in comparison to somebody like Marquise Goodwin. I think he ended up starting that game, or Taylor started that game in the slot. Taylor's actually pretty good, getting a lot of run out there. For 4-year span, getting a lot of run out there. We saw he had success last year with George Kittle. George Kittle, yeah. I don't know why my words are all over the place. Just had a huge lunch, soup, salad, food, the whole 9, whatever it might be. Brains in that, like, you know, I gotta take a nap now time. The post lunch nap. So your heads are everywhere right now. But for C.J. Beathard, Taylor's been pretty good in the low A-dot passes. Definitely a way to go. Martavis Bryant drops to 3,000, and that's because he played 7 snaps. You can't predict John Gruden. The only way you're going to predict John Gruden is if you go Derek Carr and maybe Jared Cook. John Gruden is going to be putting Brandon LaFell out there for majority of the snaps last week. This week we'll watch. He'll put Martavis Bryant will catch 2 touchdowns. I have no idea where to go with this slate, but I'm just looking at all these players. I think there is a ton of value down here with Bryant being this low, with Alfred Morris being this low, Pettis being this low. So we definitely have value. So let's see what we could do here. I do like Jordy Nelson. As a guy in the red zone, obviously he's been slow these past couple weeks. He blew up the 1 week with 2 huge catches, and it just makes his stat line pop out. He did well after that, getting in the end zone. Jalen Richard, I like as a guy who's going to obviously be catching the ball. 8 receptions and 8 targets. That's very, very nice to see that. I don't know if he can get in the end zone, so maybe not in the captain spot for Jalen Richard. Seth Roberts is getting some run here. Like we said, he scored a deep touchdown. Brandon LaFell is the guy who's on the field more than basically anybody but Jordy, and this is interesting here. He scored a touchdown as well. So there's a lot of options here, and it's just kind of like who's going to hit, right? This might be a slate I stay away from. Probably play one lineup and see if it hits. Let's try and build one with Derek Carr in the captain spot, just because I don't know what's going on with Beathard, and Derek Carr is the only guy on this slate, even with Beathard playing, that I trust to get 2 touchdowns. I think Carr had 3 or 4 last week. I think he ran one in. Yeah, he ran one in. Had a good stat line. Obviously, he's not always going to do that. But I just feel comfortable with him, maybe Jordy, maybe Cook, maybe Kittle, being the guys who can score 2 touchdowns, get in the captain spot. Let's start with Derek Carr. Pretty straightforward. Probably the most popular captain on this slate. If we go with Derek Carr, I want to go Jared Cook. Great matchup. And we have a lot of value here, right? Because the higher priced guys, they aren't priced that high. We're putting Derek Carr in there right now, and the number 3 price guy, and we still have $6K to spend at every other position. You get one value guy in here. If you go, I don't know, what did Dwayne Washington do this week? He had 1 carry for 4 yards. I think he's the best running back in that backfield. I hope they play him. They're playing guys like Doug Martin. We find Doug Martin here. He went right into that that role that Marshawn Lynch was doing. 13 carries, 72 yards. Pretty efficient, right? Pretty efficient. Not a guy I think who can get in the end zone 2 times, but against San Fran's rush D, not a guy that I'm afraid rostering here either. So let's throw Doug Martin in there. Now let's go really cheap here. Dante Pettis, where are you, you son of a gun? Dante Pettis is dirt cheap. So is Kuschek. And now you have 1,300. It's almost pointless at that point to do that. Even if you spend all the way up, you have 4,100 at remaining. That's literally 2 value guys any other week. So this is definitely an interesting thing. We don't have tight salaries in a sense that you can't fit everybody in. We have tight salaries in a sense of range, from going from 1,100 to in the 2,000 range. We have multiple viable options, and that's not just counting defenses. You have Alfred Morris, who's somewhat viable. Dwayne Washington, you could say he's viable. You have Pettis and Kuschek. You have 4 or 5 guys, if you conclude defenses, 6, 7 guys in this range, with the kickers being right there as well. Martavis Bryant, running 7 snaps is very risky. I think a lot of people are going to see his name and be like, let's play him. He only got 7 snaps. If he only gets 7 to 10 snaps, if he only runs 4 to 5 routes in a game, if he only gets 1 target a game, the best he's going to do for you is score an 80-yard touchdown. That's pretty good, but that's the only thing he can do for you. It's either that or nothing. I don't like that at that price. The kickers in this one could be interesting, but I think it's going to be higher scoring than people expect. 2 bad defenses with 2 manageable offenses who have quarterbacks who can make plays. I do like Trent Taylor. I think he's very sneaky, but I think his low A-dot has to be supplemented with high target share, like you see here at 8. At 6 is when he had his 2 highest yardage games. He's very touchdown reliant. Not a guy that I want to put in a cash game lineup. Tournaments, maybe. Raheem Mostert, I don't know. Yeah, so he's getting the run. He had a couple of catches, so people got on him. But Matt Breida played through injury. Matt Breida played decent. But again, not a place that I want to go. I don't want to touch the backfields that have 3 to 4 guys unless we see a guy like Doug Martin emerging in that backfield. Maybe he's not catching the ball like Richard, which again, in PPR and DraftKings, maybe I should lean more towards Richard. But I think Doug Martin is the guy who can get in the end zone, right? He can score from inside the 5, inside the 10-yard line even. This is a guy who 2 or 3 years ago was fantastic. Rookie of the year, the muscle hamster, whatever you might want to call it. No, he wasn't Rookie of the year, but he was up there. So I don't want to go this cheap here. Maybe not even go Pettis since he hasn't seen much run. Brandon LaFell ran a lot of snaps. He's a big receiver. I like big body wide receivers, 5,400. Now we're just building an Oakland lineup. So this is saying that Oakland's going to win. They're going to score a lot of points. We can then run it back right here, right? 2,500. Alfred Morris, we can get Pettis back in there if we want to pair him up with C.J. Beathard. That's an option. Let's see if we can just go with literally every single stud and then a really low option. So bang, bang, bang. Every single stud is both quarterbacks and the tight end on this slate. That's pretty crazy. 2,600 left. Maybe we have to spend up. Or spend down at another spot. I'm fine spending down at Beathard, not going for Beathard, and instead going for somebody like Goodwin who has the potential to just break a slate. He's going to be highly owned. Out of this, besides Derek Carr, I think Goodwin's the most owned player just because it's such cheap slates, and he's the guy with the best tournament upside. Probably the most popular captain spot in tournaments, I would say. And then here, who can we go for, right? We can go for Richard. If not, no, he can't fit anything. We have 6,700 for 2 positions, so this is interesting. Well, let's do this. Let's take Derek Carr out of there, and let's flex Derek Carr, right? And let's go in the captain spot. You save a little bit of money by going with Goodwin. I don't hate that. Let's go Jordy Nelson, a guy who can get you 6 receptions, 80 yards, and 2 tutties. That's a very Jordy Nelson-like career game. If you want to sum up Jordy Nelson, popular around the red zone with Aaron Rodgers. Seems like he's popular here with Derek Carr. Doesn't have that same burst to get open on deep plays, but he does flash it here and there. Let's say Jordy Nelson there. I think he'll be lower owned in the captain spot. That leaves us with a good amount of money then to come down to somebody like Pettis if that's where you want to go, and then you can come up and get a decent player here. Wow. So we have this tier here. We just missed out on Jalen Richard, and then you have the backup QBs, which is very interesting. You can then go Doug Martin. What if we go even cheaper, 2,200, if you can go all the way down to somebody like Kuschek, who can catch a touchdown, who can catch you 5 balls at that point. Still can't get up to Richard at 7,600. Now that's frustrating. Where can we go here, guys? Building this lineup out, I think I do want Jordy in there, guy with very high red zone upside, and I do want Goodwin in there. 4,600, do we fit anybody in captain spot there? Martavis Bryant. That could be a play. Again, don't like playing Bryant in cash at all. But if Gruden, for some reason, wakes up and he's like, Martavis Bryant is now my best player. Because in the preseason, he said, Amari Cooper is my best player. He's going to be the focal. He's going to be the X of the offense. And he left. He loved Marshawn Lynch. He gave him a run, which Marshawn Lynch actually contributed. So props to Gruden on that one. That's probably the only thing he got right. Khalil Mack's my best player. He's a freak. Let me trade him for 2 first-round picks. Still not worth Khalil Mack. Let me cut half my defense. Let me trade Bruce Irvin, or he's trying to. It just makes no sense at this point. Let me take Martavis Bryant, my best, probably most talented player on the field now that Amari Cooper is gone and Khalil Mack is gone. Maybe the most talented player on my team outside of possibly Jalen Richard. Let me go and take him, and I think Washington's actually very talented. But let me go and take him off the field. Let's not put him on the field. It makes no sense. Maybe this week he wakes up and he's like, let's play him. If that's the case, you have a healthy lineup here, right? You have the 2 best options for San Fran, and you have probably the 2 best passing options. If not, it should be the top 3 passing options for Oakland, but we don't know what Brandon LaFell is going to look like. You can't afford Brandon LaFell in this lineup, I don't believe, so no, he's priced up. Pierre Garçon's a sneaky play if he plays, right? Non-participant Monday. He's definitely a sneaky play. He got injured in this game, so this is what you want to see here, right? These targets are huge. So definitely a sneaky play. 13 targets is insane. Low ADOT, but a guy who can stretch the field, still score touchdowns. I'd monitor Pierre Garçon. If he's playing in the game and Beathard's playing, definitely like him. Definitely a different type of captain build with Pierre Garçon playing. People are going to see that questionable mark, go away from him. People are going to see Goodwin, go away from him in terms of putting guys in captain position players for San Fran. I think there's a lot of value in going Garçon here and then fading maybe Goodwin. Maybe you say Goodwin, okay. It's dangerous to fade Goodwin, right? In tournaments because he won the tournament 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was for the Packers 2 weeks ago, Monday night. He won it if you had him in the captain spot. It's dangerous to fade him because he can do this on limited targets. He can do this on limited targets. 1 catch, 55-yard touchdown, he's getting you 12.5. In the captain spot, he's getting you 19 points. But he could also do this on limited targets. And he could also do this on limited targets, even if he gets you the touchdown, 11.8 points. Not terrible, not what you want out of a captain spot. You want this out of the captain spot, which maybe he's due for it because he hasn't had it in 2 weeks, but it's hard to just say somebody's due for 2 touchdowns on 4 catches. Like I said, 40% touchdown rate the last 4 weeks on his catches. 4 out of 10 catches have been touchdowns. That's insane, especially when he's at a high ADOT, and that's just not something that's sustainable. Regression's coming. Let's say we fade Goodwin here. We put Pierre Garçon, the next best pass catcher, in there. That slides Dante Pettis down, so that's why he's ranked so low. If Pierre Garçon's out, Pettis is going to come into that starting lineup. But at 5,800, you can then go and you can get Seth Roberts. You can go get LaFell, who are probably better options than Martavis Bryant, like I said. I think I like LaFell better as a big body wide receiver. I saw Seth Roberts catch a touchdown. We also saw LaFell catch a touchdown. If you're new here or you've been following me, you know that I believe in big body wide receivers over fast guys, especially in tournaments and cash. I like smaller, faster guys, Deshaun Jackson type. In tournaments, I like big body wide receivers because they catch more touchdowns. Size and hand size and weight and height are better indicators than speed. Everybody says speed kills. Sure, speed does kill. But do you rather have Deshaun Jackson, who's going to catch you 1 deep touchdown out of every 5 games? If you take into regression into account, maybe he'll get 3 in a row, but over the course of 15 games, he'll probably have like 3 deep touchdowns, 2 middle tier, whatever it is for Deshaun Jackson type players. Or would you rather have AJ Green? Would you rather have Mike Evans? Would you rather have Julio Jones? Guys who are just matchup problems. Nobody can cover these guys because they're huge, right? That's what I like here with LaFell. Martavis Bryant's also that big guy, but LaFell's on the field more as of late, at least, as of last week. Pierre Garçon's not huge, but he's a bigger body receiver than like a Dante Pettis and a Marquise Goodwin. So that's guys I like in my lineup. Tight ends are obviously bigger guys who are targets around the red zone. You have Jordy Nelson, who is a big receiver. So I like that we have a lot of big receivers here. They're going to get their targets and probably going to be in the red zone. I like this lineup a lot, actually. If Pierre Garçon plays, I like this lineup a lot. If C.J. Beathard plays, I like this lineup a lot because that affects, obviously, Kittle and Garçon. So this is a lineup that I'm looking at. I don't think there's really a reason to try and plug in somebody like a Kuschek into your captain spot or a Pettis. Maybe if Garçon's out, you go Pettis. But there's no upside there, right? Because, sure, you could fit all these guys in then. You can't fit Jordy Nelson or Rashad, which would be interesting if you could fit one of them. If you come off of him here, you can go with Jordy Nelson, and then you can go with whoever else you want. Goodwin. That is an option if Pierre Garçon's out, right? But I don't think it's necessary in weeks past where you had to get a value guy in there or a defense or a kicker in there. I haven't even looked at defense and kicker because I think there's a lot of good, skilled position players that have upside that'll score you more than 10 points, which is about what that kicker and defense threshold is on a good night. Is about 10 points for a kicker, maybe 15. If they're not in your captain spot for a defense, if they don't score a touchdown, you're lucky if they get you 10 points. So I think this is a slate where we have a lot of good to decent skilled position. Nothing really elite in this area. The tight ends are probably the safest plays, honestly, besides the quarterbacks. So I think this is interesting. I think this is a slate where somebody could take home that top prize because you might get lucky with a Pierre Garçon lineup, or you might get lucky with a double kicker Pierre Garçon lineup, something like that. I think there's going to be a lot more points in that Patriots game. Definitely more points from both teams, not just field goals and 1 touchdown. So this is an interesting build. I think you can go a couple ways with this when you have a lot of players, a lot more variance at where the points are going to go. I'm definitely going to check out the projections. I'll play this slate now that I talked about it a little bit more. This was just a first look. No definite lineups here at all. Maybe one of these will win it, and I hope somebody takes these lineups and wins it with it. I don't even know if I'll use them. But my name's Sal. Appreciate you guys watching this video. It ran a little longer than normal, but I think there's a lot to be said about this slate. You guys can hit that like button right now. Let's try and get this video to 50 likes. I know people watch this usually on Thursdays, so happy Halloween if you haven't seen this. Belated Halloween. I hope you came up with a good costume this year. Don't be the guy who goes to a costume party and says, I don't dress up. If you're going to a costume party, dress up, right? All right, but I appreciate it. My name's Sal. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be good. Be safe. Good luck. Peace, everyone.